going on? It's Bevan1 here. Today I'm going to teach you how to make eyes in Build Battle. So there are so many ways that you can build eyes. I'm just going to show you a few different kinds and different kinds of tactics that you can use, and then you can even get as creative as you want to with it. Okay, firstly we're going to look at block choice, and so generally for whiter skin toned eyes, this is kind of the block palette that I would suggest. So this is white terracotta, cherry, stairs, slabs, and fence gate. This will pretty much allow you to create almost any general shape that you need to. This is for a slightly darker skin tone, so this is mushroom block, this is spruce, slabs, stairs, and gates. This is for an even darker skin tone, so this is brown terracotta, dark oak, stairs, slabs, and gates. And then this is just kind of for fun. Say if you're building like a cartoon character, this is just a blue palette I have. Again, the theme is a whole block, stairs, slabs, and a gate. Okay, for the white part of the eyes, there are so many different white blocks that you can use. Generally speaking, I would try to use the ones I'm about to go over. So this is bone block. It looks kind of nice. It has a bit of texturing. The only thing I don't like about bone block is that there is kind of like a darker line in the middle. This is wool. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a lot whiter. This is kind of like a creamer color. Quartz is the most advised, I would suggest, smooth quartz, that is, because you can use stairs as some detailing. You can also use slabs as detailing too. So smooth quartz has that kind of option that we talked about earlier with the slabs and the stairs. You can also use iron doors as some kind of touches around the sides. So for example, if this was your eye out of quartz, you can kind of put some along the sides just to thicken it just a little bit more. You can also use trap doors as a way to level off some things. So like this, you do something like that as a kind of a little bonus around the sides. This is snow block. So this is for extreme detailing because you can adjust the height to whatever you want with snow, and you can get pretty creative with how you do that. But I would generally try to use quartz for the time being if you're just beginning. You can also use concrete. The only thing I don't like about concrete is that it's too uniform. There's not enough texture to it, so sometimes it'll make your builds look a little too flat, if that makes sense. This is a general, just random color kind of palette that you might be able to use in your blocks for the irises of your builds. So over here is more of a red scale that you might be able to use. There's some orange in here. This is yellow and green, some blue scale. This is purple and pink, and then kind of a brown scale. So this is just a baseline, but you can pretty much use almost any of these colors and kind of get away with an iris. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. And then here for the pupil, this is the final piece of our eye. So we have black, some kind of black block. There's wool here. This is terracotta. This is blackstone. This is what I like to use the best because you have options to stairs, walls, and slabs, and that will allow you to refine your build even more. Okay, so let's go through and just make a general eye. So for now, we're going to disregard our skin color. We'll come back to that later. Let's go over here to our white, or our sclera is the anatomical part of the eye. So let's use quartz. We'll get stairs, slabs, and we'll leave it at that for now. We can come back to these later if we need to. Then let's come over to our iris collection. So I'm feeling yellow. Why not? We'll do a yellow iris. And then we'll come over to our pupil, and for this I'm going to lean towards the blackstone. So first I'm going to demonstrate how to just make a simple eye. So first I am going to just build something like this. This will be our basis for the eye, and then we can use yellow wool as our iris. And then for yellow wool, I would suggest using either bamboo or oak stairs. Both kind of work. Bamboo for a lighter tone, oak is kind of a darker tone. So if you're into shading, you can kind of look at this. But for now, I'm going to use bamboo. And then we have our blackstone, which again, I am going to pull out some stairs and kind of do something like this. This is kind of what our basic eye looks like. There is one more piece of the puzzle that I haven't gone over that, and that is the shine in the eye, which is really important. So here are a few blocks that you can use as the shine in your eye. This is for a smaller scale. So for one, you can use turtle eggs. So you can place a block and then a turtle egg there. It'll produce something like this, and this is meant to be the shine in the eye. So turtle eggs are one way. Candles are another way that you can do shine. So here there's 1 candle, 2, 3, and 4. So again, you can put a barrier block, some candles, maybe another one below, you can do like that, and it'll kind of look like this as some shine in the eye. You can also use cherry blossom buttons. You can also use pale oak if you're in a newer version, but if you're playing build battle at the time of this being released, then you won't be able to use pale oak. So cherry blossom is the closest thing to white that you can use, but you can do side buttons. You could do one in the front. You could do one here and one on the bottom if you want. It'll produce something like that. Another thing is using skulls or heads. So in build battle, this is absolutely crucial and huge that you utilize skulls. There are so many different kinds that you can use, and using these will truly make your build stand out. And so I'll just show you a few that you can use now in the actual build battle game. So now that we're in a build battle game, we can go into our Nether Star, custom skulls, and there are so many different options that you can use here. The first that I would suggest is going to colors, the second page, and using white heads. This is kind of just the baseline white dot for if you need a white dot, and again, you can kind of offset it if you need to, like that. You can also go into food, the second page, and then the spaghetti and meatballs. It sounds goofy, but I swear it looks great. If we place it on an eye, it already looks so interesting because it looks like the black is kind of a part of the pupil, and then the white is kind of the shine, and it does so much in a single block that you can't do with anything else. Again, you can experiment with more eyes. There's so many different kinds. You could use even this Chinese zodiac dog if you really wanted to. There's so many different animation things. You can really just mess around with this all that you want to. Okay, but now if you're in a regular solo world, I would suggest using skeleton skulls. This is probably the closest thing. So again, utilizing our barrier blocks, you can do something kind of like that. And again, that will produce that same kind of shine effect. Now, if you're building in creative, you can set blocks to things such as flowers. So this is a azure bluet. And so if I want to set something here as a shine, I would do /set block -- and then azure bluet, so something like that. Now let's go ahead and build a human eye using our skin tone over here. So something of this nature. This might be a left eye or a right eye. This is kind of a general shape as our eye. And again, we can go back and kind of soften up some of the shapes using cherry, because cherry is the best tool at our disposal here. So this looks a little bit smoother now. Next, we'll go in with our sclera, or the white blocks. So for this, I'll use wool for an example. So we will fill in back here as an example. So this will be our sclera. And then we can do a iris here in the middle. I'm looking at my iris colors, and for this I'm gonna use a brown tone. So for this we can use like mushroom, for example, and mud stairs are actually a very nice block to use, because if you want to shape it even more, you can kind of do something with mud stairs and they look pretty similar. So we'll do something like this, and then we want to do our black dot. So again, we'll use blackstone, something like this. It could work like that. And then for the white dot, since we're building on a pretty larger scale, we can use quartz slabs to do something like that. And then maybe a skull. So we can do something like this. Glass panes are also a great way to create some kind of luminance in the eye. So you can do something like this too. Next, let's just go around and shape our eye a little bit better. I'm gonna add some depth to our eye by putting some blocks behind our initial layer. This is where using those slabs, stairs, and gates are going to come in handy. You can even use trap doors, which I didn't mention earlier, as a way to kind of even shape it even further, like along the side or on the top if you want to make this a little bit smaller. So you can do a lot of different kind of stuff with trapdoors and all these other kinds of shaping tools that you have. The last thing we'll do is eyelashes if you really want to get into that much detail, but I would generally use slabs of some sorts. Blackstone generally looks the best. You could get away with using deep slate, maybe deep slate brick or cobbled deep slate, but I think that blackstone generally looks the best. For this example, I'm going to use blackstone on this side and kind of just spam out a little line. This is said lash, and then I'll switch it to deep slate brick so you can just see what it would look like. You can also get pretty in depth with it using a bunch of different other kinds of blocks. So here I have dark oak. This is a daylight sensor using gates, stairs, slabs, pretty much anything of that nature, and it'll kind of create another similar look. This is how to build eyes on a bigger scale. Let's learn how to make eyes on a bit of a smaller scale, so like this. This is generally what you would use more in a build battle setting. Here I don't even have an iris because there's so limited space for it. It's kind of hard to fit it in sometimes unless you're doing at least something like a 3x3. If you really wanted to, you could throw something in for an iris, but to me personally, I just like it better without an iris. So it's like this. So let's actually break down what I did here. So for this is a 2x2 using stairs, and then I have quartz behind it to add some depth and some roundness to it, like that. The underside and top side, I use trapdoors to give it a little bit more height and depth. And then on the sides, I use barrier blocks and then iron doors along the sides. Here I use a black stone wall. You can do it 2 tall, you can do it 1 tall, you can do them like this, make it a little goofy. It kind of depends on where your character is trying to look at. So if there's something in the air, it might be better to have your eye look upwards. Or if there's something off to the side, it might be better to have your eye looking this way. So again, using a black stone wall, a barrier block in front, and then 4 eyes like that will create that kind of shine effect. For me personally, when using skulls, you can either put them directly onto the wall like that, or you can offset them by putting a block to the side and then putting your skull on that block. And when you're looking directly at the eye, it will kind of offset it to the right or to the left. We learned how to make these eyes on a 2x2 scale. This is more of a real small scale. So for this is just a quartz block with a stair on it. You can also use trapdoors as a way to kind of level it out. So something like that maybe if you want. And then again, using these black stone walls, these are your best friend. For the white dot this time, I used a cherry button. You can also use, again, candles are very beginner friendly, and I would suggest using these quite often. So you can do like 4, you could do 1, is also a really good tool. I would also try to stay away from colored candles because again, I've seen some people do these, and while it doesn't look that bad, it doesn't make that much sense because usually the shine of a block is meant to be white. Unless you're doing some super high depth in detail reflection of something, then it doesn't really make sense to use colored candles. So I would typically just try to use white. Another block for the pupil that you can use is dragon eggs, which I did not cover. So dragon eggs have a pretty unique shape, kind of having a little oval with it's kind of flat at the bottom. So this is something that you can use for a little bit more detail if you want to. You can also use dragon eggs for more circular eyes, something like this. Again, candles are amazing, so it'll turn out to be something like this. For some blocks, you might not require a white dot like we have over here. So for sometimes you might use something like a fence gate as a form as the iris and the pupil kind of at the same time. For example, animals like a lizard or a dragon or a snake sometimes use blocks like this because it kind of has that kind of reptile-like eye form to it. You can also use fence like this, but again, we're kind of touching the territory of using just the one block here. So again, you could do something like this. Point being that you don't always have to use the white candles or the turtle eggs or the skull as a form as reflection. Sometimes your build just won't need that. So you can kind of test it and you'll get a feel for it. Sometimes it looks better with, sometimes it looks better without. It kind of just depends on the amount of detail that you want to add to your build. And so that is basically it. As a little recap, these are your best friend blocks for skin tone. For the sclera or the white part of your eyes, generally try to use smooth quartz, and you can use iron, trapdoors, and doors as a form of reshaping your eye and adding some more depth to it. And for the pupil, you can use kind of black tone blocks, and generally I would try to use black stone walls or black stone blocks in general. And then here is your kind of mini table for irises. So again, I would try to find different kind of stairs that match your block. And that's basically what I did over here. I used the mushroom and then mud brick stairs to round it out like that. And then finally looking at the different kinds of white dots, plus the imaginary heads that you can use in build battle. So here's what a mini eye might look like, maybe a human-based eye on a large scale, some cartoony kind of eyes, on several different scales that you might be able to use. And that is it. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you learned something. This video took quite a bit of effort, and it was something that's been requested quite a few times. You should also join our totally awesome, cool Discord server, which will be linked in the description. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day or night wherever you are, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.